Yeah.
So Guy Lane, over to you. What are you doing at COP? Okay. Hello and welcome to the Circularists. And this is a very special one because I'm speaking to Guy Lane, who is on the ground at COP28. And the other thing that's special about this interview is that Guy Lane is the very first Circularist interviewee.
Number one.
So excited for this. Number one. So just to reiterate, the Circularist, it's born out of my desire to amplify voices, the lesser heard narratives, the new, the innovative, the wacky, the creative, all of it. That's what the Circularist is about. This is no beauty parade. This is not the usual suspects. So here we go. Guy Lane, let's go.
But it's not a beauty parade. Anyway.
Well, you know, this kind of celebrity chasing culture that we live in. I call that the beauty parade. This is not that. This is real courage, passion, action.
This is pre-celebrity.
So Guy Lane, over to you. What are you doing at COP?
So I founded a couple of years ago an organization called Vita Sapien that was filling a gap. Something that was missing was, you know, when we talk about the climate and ecological crisis, there's all of this really intense left brain activity going on. It's all very scientific and rational. But fundamentally, what's missing and what's caused the climate and ecological crisis is that Western people in particular, but people in other cultures as well, have lost our spiritual connection to nature. So I wanted to explore that space and to basically create a global brand that could be a household name around the world that just helps people identify themselves as part of the living planet. The organization is called Vita Sapien. The program is broadly called Vita Worldview, and that's got two parts, which is LifeWise Philosophy and Vita Religion, which is a registered religious institution. And I'm launching Vita Religion at COP28.
So Guy, let me ask you a couple of questions, because the word religion sends many people cold because it has bad press and a bad legacy. So I want to ask you a few things about this religion. So first of all, why religion?
Yeah, so
why not something else?
80% of the world, 80% of the world follows a religion. So 80% approximately. So for that, it's popular, right? It's not so popular with the sort of free thinking, atheistic kind of hipsters, right? But and part of the reason for that is because of the way that religions conduct themselves, is that there's sort of an assumption about what a religion is, that typically it's ancient, totally disconnected from reality, scientific reality, as well as daily reality.
Yes.
And it's full of all sorts of wacky stuff. It's got all sky fairies and all this nonsense, right? That's what people associate with religion. But when you look at the definition of religion, say in Australia, which is where Vita's registered, it doesn't actually have the word God in it. It says a belief in a supernatural. And so people that care about the planet see nature as supernatural. They see the way that seeds sprout and the way that the mushrooms connect each other under the soil and help the trees communicate, and the way that birds flock together. That's supernatural. And that's really what I'm exploring in this religion. It's not dictatorial. It doesn't tell you what to think. It simply invites you to open your heart to the living planet.
It sounds lovely. So in terms of this religion, would you be the head? Like, are you the Pope of Vita Sapien?
Actually, it's funny because a friend of mine refers to myself and Bill, who's the co-director, as the co-popes. Like that. It's not meant to be like obviously I'm the founder. Yes. I'm one of the Vitan ministers, so that would be my technical definition. The idea is it's a very flat hierarchy. That's what we've got planned. The idea really is that people would put their hand up to actually open or to set up pods, so that anybody in the world could say, hey, I love this, I want to be a part of it, I want to lead a pod. And then they're sort of based around full moon parties. So on a full moon, they bring people together and they say, look, let me tell you about what it says in Vita, and that they create their own sort of local version of it. So it's sort of like a flat plane, but with one little bump in it, which is the organization in the middle, which is actually where the doctrine is being created. You know, but certainly on the full moon, you would have people gather together to watch the full moon rise, which itself is a part of nature's peak experience that's available to us.
Interesting. So
And
why the full moon, Guy? Why the full
well,
moon? I
because
love the full moon. It's beautiful.
well,
Its beauty is breathtaking. But why?
because many people live in cities and towns. We've lost contact with natural cycles. Our holidays are not connected to the seasons. They're connected to colonialism and to Christianity, mainly in Australia. All of our holidays. Christmas is obviously, but New Year is basically a Christian holiday. That's a celebration of the circumcision of Christ. So another thing that Vita religion does is we advocate that people reinvent New Year, which is a call to reinvent all institutions, because we can't have annihilated most life on Earth in 200 years without every institution being in on the act. So we're looking to reinvent every institution as an agent to protect the ecosystem. That is our life support system. And one of those institutions is New Year.
So, having read through some of your materials, there are two things that seem to me in opposition, and I just want to ask you about those. So, on the one hand, there seems to be an open heart welcome to all faiths, because there'll be no disrespect, there'll be no conflict to come with all of your faith or none. But then on the other side, there seems to be an almost, I would say, mocking tone of faith. And so I'm wondering how you're going to draw people if they feel that if they feel that. So
yeah,
how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, well, no, that's an excellent question. And the distinction is there is Guy Lane's view of the world, and then there is Vita religion's view of the world. And quite often I conflate the two, and that's my fault, because I hold that people are free to hold religious views, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that I like the views that they hold.
Right.
Okay. And so, and I think this comes back to a really central part of what I'm trying to do with Vita religion, is to help people understand that they're responsible for their beliefs. Now, some people go, well, I believe this and I believe that. And I'm like, okay, you believe that, right? Are you responsible for that belief? Have you actually checked in as to whether that is a good belief, whether that belief leads to a good outcome? Because beliefs manifest into the real world through our actions and inactions. All right. So I can honor his right to hold beliefs and scorn his beliefs if they're foolhardy, in my view. There is a discipline that I've not yet really taken hold of, which is that if I'm speaking on behalf of Vita, I should be more respectful of views, even though I may personally find them ridiculous. So it's about helping people connect with reality. And this is part of part of Vita's views is grounded in Stoicism, which is the ancient Greek philosophy, which was founded around about the same time as the Abrahamic religions, and most of the major religions and philosophies of today were founded in a period called the Axial Age, around 2,300 to 2,800 years ago. And one of those philosophies was Stoicism. And that's really grounded in understanding reality and working within reality. And that's really what we're sort of trying to do, help people ground in reality. And the reality that's really present right now is the reality that we're putting 40 billion tons of carbon in the atmosphere, and we're heading towards the heat death of the planet unless there is some transformation. And I'm trying to trigger a transformation in this spiritual relationship for Western people who aren't religious people, but who are just trying to help them connect into the ecosystem. And Vita religion is one of the tools. And another of the tools is LifeWise philosophy, which is like the secular version of the same information.
So I'm just thinking there of indigenous peoples, First Nations principles and so on. What's the parallel and the connection and the relationship between what you're doing and how they've lived for millennia, if any?
Well, I mean, again, so I talk about I'm talking about Stoicism as a part of Vita religion, but indigenous worldview is also an important part. And really the heart of Vita religion is this idea of identifying ourselves as a part of the ecosystem, which is exactly what indigenous people do. Indigenous culture is all about their place in country, right? And that they are a part of the forest. And that's something that Western people have lost. In fact, when white colonialists came into developing country, came into the countries they colonized, one of the things that they did was they sort of forced upon the indigenous people a view that they were separate from the land. And part of the reason, I don't know about the reason for that, but one of the benefits for the colonialists in forcing that view upon people is it made it easier for them to strip the forests that people had previously identified with as a part of themselves. And so really Vita religion, Lifewise philosophy, Vita worldview, all of these things are just different ways of trying to help people see the world the way that indigenous people see the world.
Yes.
But Western people don't necessarily have the same connection to a plot of territory because we move around so much. So really this is about helping people understand ourselves as part of the global ecosystem. So it's like much more expansive in a way than indigenous worldview, which tends to be focused very much on their own terrain. This is trying to help people understand themselves as part of the global biosphere.
Right. It's a very noble endeavor, what you're doing.
But anyway, so I'm going to talk with these folk and I'm going to try and find a way to finesse that indigenous worldview into Vita. Because at the moment, this has been written by a cisgendered, heterosexual, middle-aged, old white guy. And so I've got to try and, you know, from a POM, British-born Australian. So I've got to try and change the language somewhat to make it more broadly inclusive. And that's just part of the ongoing
The development of it, yes.
Continual development, yeah.
So I'm very curious. I'd be very curious to see that collaboration and to just, because I imagine if you were to sit down and have a coffee with any of these Indigenous leaders, that there'd be low resistance to the idea of Vita Sapien because it's so natural. It's to who they are. It's who they are.
Because they probably had a little bit enough of Western religions imposed on Indigenous cultures. But on the other hand, if they understand what I'm trying to do, they might embrace the idea. And remember also, when I talk about Vita religion, this is not forcing anything upon anybody. It's simply a packet. It's simply a vehicle by which to convey ideas. So, yes. And again, those ideas are expressed also in the Lifewise philosophy. It's the same information. One is framed as a religion and the other is framed as a philosophy, although it's the same thing. The fundamental difference between Lifewise philosophy and Vita religion is that Vita religion features the supernatural and the practices, which meets the definition of a religion. All right. All of the same information is available in the secular Lifewise philosophy.
That brings us on nicely because when I glanced over those 9 practices, I was very intrigued. So can you reel those off to us, those 9 practices?
Yep, I've got them written down here in my press release.
Okay.
So, and the canons of conduct, we call them practices, and there are 9 practices. Okay, I'll just name them for you. Okay, so, okay, I-biosphere, I've already done that. All right, live with earthity, practice a Vita mission, grow something, celebrate the moon, contemplate above and below. Actually, that's change the name of that. That's called Lava and Cosmos. Anyway, reinvent new year, know your white horse, and return to the flux. That's the 9. You know, I've been doing this stuff for 20 plus years now. I really started probably in 2000, so what's that, 23 years. And we're not gonna fix this mess. We're not. We're gonna hit the 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4, 6, annihilate life on Earth, unless we have a global spiritual awakening to nature. Right? Now, I'm not saying it's going to be through through Vita Sapien, right? I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there, right? There should be, this is why I say we should have thousands of these new ideas. Vita Sapien is trying to pioneer a space.
Yes.
Right? Just trying to create a space. What I really hope is that thousands of people will copy what I've written, edit it for a different audience.
Yes.
And put it out there.
Yes.
Right. But I don't think we cannot fix this mess with the worldview that we hold.
I 100% agree with you there.
Right.
So thanks for joining me again for your second Circularist interview, and it's not going to be the last. So let's keep the conversation and interviews going.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Journey.
Yeah, and keep doing what you do. All right, Dan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.